In most parts of the world, when you ask people, what's the most annoying and nerve-wracking creature? Most people would say, flies. We want you to know they're absolutely right, because flies are indeed pesky and incredibly irritating insects. You have to kill them in a way that they don't notice, otherwise they'll escape. Some people say, we hope mosquitoes and flies go extinct. Most of them wish for flies to disappear because they also bring contamination. Now let's imagine humans find a solution to eradicate and completely wipe out flies. What would happen? No one has ever managed to calculate the total population of flies accurately. Every source that exists always provides estimates based on guesses. For example, one source says that at any given moment, there are about 17 quadrillion flies on Earth. That means you write a 17 and put 15 zeros in front of it. They mention at any given moment because flies have short lives. They die and are replaced. Another source says that for every human, there are 17 million flies. That's another estimate. And the problem becomes even more complicated when you learn that biologists have identified more than 120,000 species of flies in the world. Flies are filthy, incredibly diverse, and extremely populous. But entomologists say that flies are worth more than mosquitoes. You probably know world's deadliest creature on Earth, which is the mosquito. This tiny small mosquito has killed more humans throughout history than any other creature, and it's still killing by transmitting various diseases, especially malaria. Flies also carry germs and diseases, but they're not as deadly. For example, the tsetse fly in Africa causes a disease called sleeping sickness, but it lives in specific regions. It's not like mosquitoes, which can spread everywhere. Let's imagine we have such a power, and we've eradicated all the flies in the world. What would happen? Nothing. Flies would no longer bother us, and they wouldn't buzz around our ears. Well, we wouldn't mind that. But what about nature? Can it survive without flies? It can, but barely. In other words, the whole ecosystem would be disrupted. The first problem would be that plant pollination would be disrupted. It's true that bees do the most pollination, but flies also play an important role. Another thing flies do, which is gross but beneficial, is sit on the feces of various animals. They consume the germs and then they sit on the carcasses in nature and eat their germs too. In a way, they clean nature and prevent the spread of diseases. It's true that if the same fly sits on the apple you're eating, it contaminates it. But that's our problem. We need to ensure flies don't sit on our food. Some tasks are gross. Even vultures eat dead animals. But we made a clip showing they're one of nature's most important birds, calling them nature's heroes. Of course, flies aren't heroes, but their work is useful. Now, maybe some farmers might say, what are you talking about? If we don't spray pesticides, flies destroy our crops. And they're right. Flies are pests in agriculture. That's why farmers worldwide spend tens of millions of dollars trying to keep flies away from their fields. So if flies go extinct, farmers would be happy. They'd save a lot of money and wouldn't have to spend on pesticides and such. Flies sit on fruits in orchards and lay their eggs on them, causing the fruit to become infested. And with their large populations, they can ruin the fruit of entire hectares of orchards at once. This is their damage to agriculture, but in nature, they do the same on animal carcasses. Their larvae grow inside the carcasses, eating all the microbes there. This is very useful for nature as it prevents diseases from spreading from these carcasses to other places. In a way, we can call flies little scavengers. Studies by entomologists on cocoa trees have shown that without flies, there would be no cocoa, because more than 90% of cocoa tree pollination is done by this annoying creature. Some people say, we don't want flies or cocoa, get rid of both. But not everyone thinks that way. The biggest problem caused by the absence of flies is that they're food for many creatures in nature. If flies are gone, they'd starve. The most famous of these are various frogs, small birds like sparrows, and different spiders. These three groups of creatures rely on flies to survive. If flies disappear, they'll go extinct too. We said there are 17 quadrillion flies. No matter how much these creatures eat, it wouldn't make a dent because they're always replaced. That's why these processes are called ecosystems. If you add or remove a creature from an ecosystem, the balance of that system can be disrupted. That's why they say don't cause extinctions or eliminate species, because it's not just one species disappearing, it damages an entire ecosystem. Now let's see how long flies have been on Earth. Since the Permian period, about 260 million years ago. How did we find out? From the best preserved fossils of flies found. But how? Inside amber. The most fascinating fossils are those preserved in amber, completely intact, trapped in a capsule, reaching us hundreds or tens of millions of years later. So we've learned that if we eradicate flies, we'd feel more at ease, but we also realize we can't do it. If humans try to eliminate these 120,000 species of flies using any method, from atomic bombs to pesticides, we've said many other creatures would also go extinct, and life for us humans would become much harder. So throw away your fly swatters. Just kidding, they're still needed for the home.